Fog chokes the canals of Amsterdam, where Lord Reginald Vane vanished without a trace. A blood-stained glove on the Prinsengracht bridge hints at foul play, but no body is found. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson unravel a web of betrayal, secret societies, and a silver medallion that holds deadly power. Was it murder or a cunning ruse? As the saffron veil's shadows deepen, Holmes's razor-sharp mind cuts through red herrings to reveal a shocking truth. Join us at Mysteries by the Fireside for a tale of greed and deception that will leave you breathless. Chapter 1: The Distressed Client. Hello and welcome to Mysteries by the Fireside, where every story feels like a conversation over a warm cup of coffee. Settle in, dear reader, for a tale of intrigue and deduction, spun from the pen of Dr. John H. Watson, chronicling the unparalleled mind of Sherlock Holmes. It was a bleak November evening in 1889, the kind that cloaks London in a shroud of fog so dense that the gas lamps of Baker Street glowed like distant beacons, their light diffused into hazy orbs. The air was chill, damp, and heavy with the scent of coal smoke, mingling with the faint tang of the Thames that crept through even the tightest window panes. I, Dr. John H. Watson, sat by the fire in our rooms at 221B. My old war wound, a Jezzail bullet lodged in my leg during my service in Afghanistan, throbbing faintly in protest against the cold. Across from me, Sherlock Holmes lounged in his armchair, his long, lean frame draped carelessly, his violin resting idly on his knee. His sharp gray eyes, usually so piercing, were half closed, lost in some private reverie, though I knew better than to assume his mind was idle. The room was a familiar chaos. Books strewn across the table, chemical apparatus cluttering the corner, and a faint haze of tobacco smoke curling upward from Holmes's pipe, adding to the cozy yet faintly mysterious atmosphere. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the walls, and I found myself glancing at his chair, every line of his body taut with anticipation. The man who entered was a striking figure, though his appearance was marred by evident distress. He was perhaps 40, tall and broad-shouldered, with the bearing of one accustomed to command. His attire, a finely tailored frock coat, now creased and slightly askew, spoke of wealth. But his face was pale, his dark eyes wide with a mixture of fear and desperation. His hands, gloved in black leather, trembled as he clutched a small parcel wrapped in brown paper, and his hair, dark and streaked with gray, was disheveled as though he had run his fingers through it repeatedly. He stood in the doorway, hesitating, as though unsure whether to advance or flee. "Mr. Sherlock Holmes?" he asked, his voice hoarse, tinged with an accent I could not quite place, perhaps a faint trace of the continent. "I am he," Holmes replied, rising smoothly and gesturing to the chair opposite. "And this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson. Pray be seated, and tell us what brings you here on such a night." The man sank into the chair, his shoulders slumping as though the weight of his troubles had finally overcome his resolve. "My name is Sir Edmund Vane, Baron of Harwood," he began, his voice low but steadying as he spoke. "I come to you in a matter of the utmost urgency. My brother, Lord Reginald Vane, has vanished. Last seen 3 nights ago on a bridge over the Prinsengracht Canal in Amsterdam. I fear he is dead, or worse." Holmes's eyes gleamed with that familiar spark of interest, and I felt my own pulse quicken. A disappearance in Amsterdam, a baron's brother, a canal bridge. The elements of the case were already weaving a tapestry of intrigue. Holmes leaned forward, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Details, Sir Edmund," he said, his tone crisp. "Omit nothing, however trivial it may seem." Sir Edmund drew a shuddering breath, setting the parcel on the table before him. "My brother was a diplomat, engaged in delicate negotiations with Dutch trade guilds. He had been in Amsterdam, was found on the edge of the Prinsengracht Canal, near the bridge where he was last seen. The blood. I fear the worst, Mr. Holmes. The Dutch authorities have searched the canal, but they found no body, no trace of him. They claim it may be an accident, or worse, foul play, but they have no leads. I cannot rest until I know what has become of him." Holmes leaned back, his fingers drumming lightly on the arm of his chair. "Tell me of your brother's habits, his associates, his purpose in Amsterdam. Was he a man with enemies?" Sir Edmund frowned as though the question pained him. "Reginald is a man of strong character, but not without flaws. He was ambitious, driven by a desire to elevate our family's name. His work with the trade guilds was sensitive. There were rumors of rival factions, merchants who resented British influence. But enemies? None that I know of, though he was not universally liked. He could be sharp-tongued, dismissive of those he deemed beneath him. And his activities on the night he vanished," Holmes pressed. "He dined with a Dutch merchant, a man named Vandermeer, at a restaurant near the canal. Witnesses saw him leave alone, crossing the Prinsengracht bridge around midnight. The fog was thick, they said, and he seemed in haste. That is the last anyone saw of him." Holmes's gaze shifted to the glove, and he finally reached for it, examining it with the care of a scientist studying a rare specimen. He turned it over, noting the quality of the leather, the stitching, the stains. "Fresh blood, no more than a few days old," he murmured. "The stains are uneven, splattered, not smeared. Curious." He set the glove down and fixed Sir Edmund with a piercing look. "You say he was last seen 3 nights ago. Why did you wait until now to seek my aid?" Sir Edmund flushed, his hands clenching. "I prayed it was a misunderstanding, that he might have been delayed, or taken ill. But when the glove arrived, I could delay no longer. That held no warmth. A passing curiosity. Good evening, Sir Edmund." When the door closed behind our visitor, Holmes turned to me, his expression alight with purpose. "What do you make of it, Watson?" "A tragic case," I replied, still unsettled by the blood-stained glove. "A man of influence, vanished in a foreign city, possibly murdered. But the glove, it suggests foul play, yet the absence of a body is puzzling." "Puzzling indeed," Holmes said, picking up his violin and plucking a single mournful note. "The glove is a message, Watson. But to whom? And why Amsterdam, of all places? There is more here than a simple disappearance. Pack your bag, my dear fellow. We shall take the morning train to the continent." Key visual moment. Sir Edmund clutching the blood-stained glove, his face illuminated by the flickering firelight, despair etched in every line. Thumbnail suggestion. A close-up of the glove against the foggy backdrop of a canal bridge, the blood stark against the leather. Background music sound effects. Soft violin strains, the crackle of the fire, the distant clatter of hooves on cobblestones, the muffled toll of a church bell. Engagement prompt. What do you think the blood-stained glove signifies? Is it a clue, a warning, or something else entirely? Share your theories in the comments. Chapter 2. The Amsterdam Connection. The fog that had cloaked London in its damp embrace seemed to follow us as we set out from 221B Baker Street, the wheels of our hansom cab clattering over the slick cobblestones. It was the morning after Sir Edmund Vane's urgent visit, and Sherlock Holmes, with that restless energy that always accompanied the scent of a mystery, had declared our immediate departure for the Anchor's Rest, a tavern near the London docks known to be a haunt of Dutch sailors and merchants. The air was thick with the briny tang of the Thames, mingled with the acrid bite of coal smoke, and the gas lamps cast eerie halos through the mist, their light barely piercing the gloom. I, Dr. John Watson, adjusted my overcoat against the chill, my mind still turning over the smuggling then. Or something more sinister. Holmes's lips curved into a faint, enigmatic smile. Smuggling is a likely thread, Watson, but the tapestry is far more complex. The glove, the blood, the haste of Sir Edmund's journey to us, these are but the edges of the pattern. We shall find the weave at the Anchor's Rest. The cab drew to a halt near the docks, where the air grew heavier with the scent of tar and salt water. The Anchor's Rest stood at the end of a narrow alley, its weathered sign creaking in the wind, the windows glowing with the dim, smoky light of oil lamps. As we stepped inside, the hum of conversation paused briefly. The patrons, sailors with weathered faces, merchants in fine but travel-stained coats, casting wary glances our way. The tavern was a cavern of low ceilings and dark wood, the air thick with the mingled aromas of ale, tobacco, and fried fish. A fire burned in the hearth, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls like specters. Holmes, with his uncanny knack for blending into any setting, adopted the air of a casual observer, his sharp eyes scanning the room as we took a table in the corner. I ordered a pint of ale to maintain our cover, though Holmes touched his only to swirl it absently, his attention fixed on a grizzled man at the bar, a Dutch captain, judging by his weathered pea-coat and the pipe clenched between his teeth. The man's voice carried, rough and accented, as he spoke to a companion about a delayed shipment from Amsterdam. "Watson," Holmes murmured, leaning close. "That man is our key. Note the calluses on his hands, the faint scent of cloves in his tobacco, a blend favored in the Low Countries. He is no mere sailor, but a captain of some standing, likely with ties to the trade guilds." Before I could respond, Holmes rose and approached the bar, his manner easy yet purposeful. "Good evening, Captain," he said, his voice carrying a trace of camaraderie. "I couldn't help but overhear your talk of Amsterdam. I have a friend there, a merchant named Vandermeer. You wouldn't happen to know him?" The captain's eyes narrowed, but he took the bait, exhaling a cloud of clothes seen, only whispered about. Holmes pressed further, his tone casual but probing. "And Lord Reginald Vane? Did he ever cross paths with this silver fox?" The captain's pipe paused midway to his mouth, his eyes darting to the side. "Vane? The diplomat? I heard he was poking about where he shouldn't, asking after a silver medallion tied to some old Dutch society. Word is he met with Vandermeer the night he vanished. But you didn't hear that from me." Holmes thanked the man with a nod and a coin, returning to our table with a gleam in his eye that told me he had found a thread worth pulling. "Watson," he said as we stepped back into the foggy alley, "the medallion is the key. Lord Reginald was no mere diplomat dabbling in trade agreements. He was hunting something of great value, something that drew the attention of this de Silver and Voss." We returned to Baker Street under the cover of night, the fog thicker now, muffling the sounds of the city. Holmes was silent, his mind clearly racing, but I ventured a question. "Do you believe the captain? Could this silver fox have orchestrated Lord Reginald's disappearance?" Holmes paused beneath a gas lamp, its light casting his angular features into sharp relief. "The captain spoke the truth, as far as he knows it. But truth, Watson, is a slippery thing. The medallion, the blood-stained glove, the canal bridge. These are pieces of a puzzle, but we lack the frame. We must go to Amsterdam." The journey to the continent was swift, arranged with Holmes's usual efficiency. By the following evening we stood on the deck of a steamer crossing the North Sea, the wind sharp and salty, the horizon swallowed by mist. Amsterdam greeted us with its own brand of fog, softer than London's, but no less mysterious, curling over the canals like a living thing. The Prinsengracht, where Lord Reginald had last been seen, was a broad, elegant waterway lined with tall, gabled houses, their windows glowing faintly through the dusk. The bridge itself was a graceful arch of stone, its surface worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The canal below. Accident would not explain the glove, nor the blood. No, Watson, this was deliberate. A message, a misdirection, or both. We must find Vandermeer and learn what passed between him and Lord Reginald that night. We sought out Vandermeer's residence, a grand townhouse overlooking the Herengracht. The merchant, a portly man with a florid complexion, received us with polite wariness, his eyes flickering when Holmes mentioned Lord Reginald. "Yes, I dined with him," Vandermeer admitted, pouring us brandy in his opulent study. "We discussed the silk trade, nothing more. He left my company in good spirits, heading for the Prinsengracht. I know nothing of his fate." Holmes's gaze was unrelenting. "And this medallion he sought? What can you tell me of it?" Vandermeer's hand faltered, spilling a drop of brandy. "A trinket, nothing more. A relic of some old Dutch guild, long disbanded. Why do you ask?" Holmes did not answer, but his silence was answer enough. As we left the townhouse, he murmured, "Vandermeer knows more than he admits, Watson. The medallion is no mere trinket. It is the heart of this mystery." Key visual moment. Holmes leaning forward, his sharp profile silhouetted against the tavern's smoky glow, interrogating the Dutch captain. Thumbnail suggestion. Holmes's intense gaze in the dimly lit tavern, a pipe's smoke curling upward. Background music sound effects. Low hum of tavern chatter, clinking glasses, distant foghorn, the gentle lapping of canal water as Holmes examines the bridge. Engagement prompt. Who is De Silver and Voss? A criminal mastermind? A merchant? Or a red herring? Share your theories in the comments. Chapter 3. Shadows on the Bridge. The fog over Amsterdam was a living thing, a spectral veil that clung to the canals and cobblestones, softening the edges of the world into a dreamlike haze. It was the second evening of our investigation into the disappearance of Lord Reginald Vane, and I, Dr. John H. Watson, stood beside Sherlock Holmes on the Prinsengracht. Disappearance. All suggest a deliberate act. But whose, and to what end? I peered over the railing, the canal's dark waters offering nothing but their own inscrutable depths. You're certain it wasn't an accident? A fall, perhaps, in the fog? Holmes's lips twitched in a faint, sardonic smile. An accident, Watson, with a blood-stained glove left so conveniently at the scene. No, this was no mishap. The glove is a prop, meant to provoke fear or suspicion. We must uncover the script behind it. He continued his examination, his magnifying glass glinting in the dim light as he traced the contours of the bridge's stonework. "Here," he said suddenly, pointing to a series of faint scuff marks near the railing, barely visible in the flickering glow of the gas lamps. "These are recent, made by a man's boot. Likely Lord Reginald's, given the size and pattern. They suggest a struggle, or at least a sudden movement. And here." He knelt, brushing his fingers over a small pile of fine gray ash. "Cigar ash, Watson. The same Cuban blend we noted before. Our quarry is consistent, if nothing else." I frowned, trying to follow his reasoning. "The same man who smoked at the scene of the disappearance? But who is he? De Silver and Voss?" Holmes rose, pocketing a sample of the ash in a small envelope. "Perhaps. Though I suspect the silver fox is too cunning to leave such obvious traces. This ash may be another misdirection. A breadcrumb meant to lead us astray. We need more data." Our next stop was a narrow alley just off the bridge, where a local beggar, known to the canal folk as Old Peter, was said to linger. We found him huddled beneath a tattered blanket, his rheumy eyes glinting with a mix of wariness and curiosity as we approached. Holmes, with his usual knack for disarming strangers, offered a coin and a kind word. And soon didn't see his face, but he wasn't no ordinary man. As we left Pieter to his meager shelter, Holmes's expression was one of intense concentration. "A splash, Watson, but no body. Voices, but no clear words. A cloaked figure, but no face. The plot thickens, and yet the stage remains maddeningly obscure." We returned to the bridge, where Holmes paced its length, his eyes scanning every detail. He paused at the railing, leaning over to study the canal below. "The water here is deep, Watson, but not so swift as to carry a body far. If Lord Reginald fell, or was pushed, the Dutch authorities would have found him by now, unless the canal was meant to hide something else." "Something else?" I asked, puzzled. "You mean the medallion Vandermeer mentioned?" Holmes nodded, his gaze distant. "Possibly. The medallion is the linchpin of this affair, I am certain. Lord Reginald was seeking it, and someone, perhaps this De Silver and Voss, did not wish him to succeed. But why leave the glove? Why the blood? It is as if our adversary wishes us to believe in a murder that may not have occurred." The night grew colder, the fog thicker, and I felt a shiver that was not entirely due to the chill. "You think Lord Reginald is alive, then? That he staged his own disappearance?" Holmes's eyes gleamed in the gaslight. "A possibility, Watson, but not the only one. We must consider all angles: murder, abduction, or a deliberate vanishing act. The truth lies in the details, and we have not yet gathered enough." We made our way to a nearby inn, the Golden Tulip, where we had taken rooms for our stay in Amsterdam. The inn was a cozy refuge, its low-beamed ceilings and crackling hearth a stark contrast to the eerie bridge outside. Over a late supper of hearty Dutch stew and dark bread, Holmes sketched out his plan. "Tomorrow we shall visit Lord Reginald's lodgings. His papers, his belongings, something there will point us to the medallion's significance. and we must track down this modest but elegant apartment in a quiet street near the canal. The rooms were as he had left them, untouched by the Dutch authorities, who had deemed the bridge the primary scene of the crime. Holmes moved with purpose, examining every detail. The neatly made bed, the stack of diplomatic correspondence, the faint scent of cologne lingering in the air. He paused at a small writing desk, where a single sheet of paper bore a cryptic note. The saffron veil hides the key. Seek the fox. Holmes's eyes gleamed as he read it aloud. The saffron veil, Watson. A name, a symbol, perhaps a society. And the fox, our elusive de Silver and Voss. Lord Reginald was closer to the truth than he knew. Key visual moment. Holmes kneeling on the Prinsengracht Bridge, magnifying glass in hand, inspecting the cigar ash as the fog swirls around him. Thumbnail suggestion. Holmes on the foggy bridge, a ghostly cloaked figure lurking in the background, barely visible. Background music, sound effects. Gentle lapping of canal water. Distant church bells tolling midnight. The eerie whistle of wind through the bridge's arches. The faint rustle of Peter's tattered blanket. Engagement prompt. Did Lord Reginald fall into the canal, or is he still alive? What do you make of the cloaked figure Peter saw? Drop your predictions in the comments. Chapter 4. The Baron's Secrets. The morning light in Amsterdam was a pale, watery thing, struggling to pierce the fog that still lingered over the canals like a reluctant guest. It was our third day in pursuit of the truth behind Lord Reginald Vane's disappearance, and I, Dr. John H. Watson, followed Sherlock Holmes through the narrow, cobbled streets toward the late Baron's lodgings. The Prinsengracht Bridge, with its cryptic scuff marks and cigar ash, had yielded tantalizing clues but no clear answers. And Holmes's restless energy was palpable as we approached the elegant townhouse where Lord Reginald had resided during his ill-fated stay. The air carried the faint, briny scent of the canal, heavy velvet curtains, and walls lined with Dutch paintings depicting serene landscapes and bustling markets. Yet there was a sense of disquiet, as if the rooms held their breath, waiting for their occupant's return. Holmes wasted no time, his sharp eyes scanning the space with the intensity of a hawk. He moved from the parlor to the bedroom, then to a small study where a mahogany desk stood beneath a window overlooking the canal. Papers were neatly stacked, a testament to Lord Reginald's diplomatic precision. But Holmes's attention was drawn to a small locked journal bound in black leather, its clasp glinting in the morning light. "A man of secrets, Watson," he murmured, producing a slender tool from his pocket. With a deft twist, the lock yielded, and the journal fell open to reveal pages filled with meticulous handwriting. I peered over his shoulder, catching glimpses of cryptic entries. "What does it say, Holmes? Is it about the medallion?" Holmes's fingers traced the lines, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It is more than that. Listen. October 25th. Met with VDM at de Gouden End. He speaks of the Saffron Veil, a society older than the guilds, guarding a relic of immense value. The medallion is the key, but DV warns of danger. DV, Watson. Likely de Silver and Voss, the Silver Fox. Lord Reginald was entangled in something far beyond mere trade negotiations. He turned the page, revealing a sketch of a silver medallion, its surface etched with an intricate design, a stylized saffron flower encircled by runes. Below it, another entry. October 27th. DV insists the medallion is hidden in the city, but the veil watches closely. I must act swiftly, or all is lost. The final entry, dated the night of his disappearance, was chillingly brief. The bridge at midnight. The fox will deliver. Trust no one. I felt a chill despite the warmth of the room. He was meeting de Silver and Voss that night, I said. But what happened? Was he betrayed? Holmes closed the journal, his expression unreadable. Betrayal? Another trap. Holmes's eyes gleamed with that familiar spark of discovery. A trap, a lure, or a genuine lead, we shall know soon enough. But first we must consider the journal's warning. Trust no one. Lord Reginald suspected treachery, even from those closest to him. We left the townhouse, the map and journal tucked safely in Holmes's coat. The streets of Amsterdam were coming alive, with merchants calling out their wares and barges gliding silently along the canals. But my thoughts were consumed by the mystery. The saffron veil, the medallion, de Silver and Voss. Each piece seemed to deepen the enigma rather than clarify it. Holmes, however, was undeterred, his mind already racing ahead to the next step. Our next destination was a cafe near the docks, a place frequented by merchants and sailors, where we hoped to glean more about the warehouse. The Café de Blauwe Dolfijn was a smoky den filled with the clatter of cups and the murmur of multilingual conversation. Holmes, with his chameleon-like ability to blend in, ordered coffee in flawless Dutch, his eyes scanning the room for anyone who might know of the Docklands' secrets. A chance remark from a barmaid led us to a grizzled dock worker, a man named Klaas, whose weathered face and calloused hands spoke of a life spent hauling cargo. Holmes, with his usual charm, engaged him in conversation, steering it toward the warehouse marked on the map. "A queer place, that one," Klaas said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Used by a private consortium, they say. No one goes in or out without a password. And there's talk of strange shipments, crates that don't go through the usual customs." Holmes pressed gently, his tone casual but probing. "And this consortium? Any names associated with it? A man called de Silver and Voss, perhaps?" Klaas's eyes widened, and he glanced around nervously. "You don't want to be saying that name too loud, sir. The Silver Fox is a ghost round here. Some say he runs the docks. Others say he's just a tale to scare greenhorns. But I heard tell of a gentleman asking about a Sir Edmund Vane, the brother who had come to us in such distress, hiding his own motives. The blood-stained glove, the cigar ash, the cryptic journal, all pointed to a conspiracy that reached beyond a single man's disappearance. The docks were a maze of crates and barrels, the air thick with the scent of tar and fish. The warehouse loomed ahead, its weathered facade unassuming yet forbidding, its windows dark and shuttered. Holmes paused, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "We shall return tonight, Watson, under cover of darkness. The saffron veil may guard their secrets, but no secret can withstand the light of reason." Key visual moment. Holmes holding up the black leather journal, a cryptic map fluttering to the floor as sunlight streams through the townhouse window. Thumbnail suggestion. The map illuminated by candlelight, Holmes's shadow looming over the desk. Background music, sound effects, soft rustle of paper, the creak of floorboards, the distant clink of china in the cafe, the low hum of dockside activity. Engagement prompt. What does the medallion unlock? A treasure, a secret society, or something else entirely? Share your guesses in the comments. Chapter 5. A Trail of Ciphers. The fog had lifted slightly by the time Sherlock Holmes and I, Dr. John H. Watson, returned to London. the damp chill of Amsterdam's canals replaced by the familiar smoky haze of Baker Street. It was the fourth day of our investigation into the disappearance of Lord Reginald Vane, and the cryptic journal and map we had uncovered in his Amsterdam lodgings weighed heavily on my mind. The journey back across the North Sea had been swift, driven by Holmes's insistence that the key to unraveling the mystery lay in decoding the secrets hidden within Lord Reginald's writings. As our hansom cab rattled through London's bustling streets, the gas lamps flickering to life against the encroaching dusk, I could sense Holmes's mind working at its feverish pace, piecing together the threads of a case that grew more intricate with each revelation. Back in the cozy, cluttered sanctuary of 221B Baker Street, the fire crackled warmly, casting a golden glow over the familiar chaos of books, chemical vials, and Holmes's ever-present tobacco ash. I settled into my armchair, my leg aching faintly from the damp, while Holmes spread Lord Reginald's journal and map across the table, his lean frame taut with concentration. "Watson," he said, his voice sharp with purpose. "The journal is no mere diary. It is a cipher, a deliberate veil over Lord Reginald's true intentions. The saffron veil, the medallion, de zilveren Vos. These are not random elements, but parts of a carefully constructed puzzle. We must crack it." I leaned forward, peering at the journal's pages, their neat handwriting interspersed with cryptic symbols, combinations of letters, numbers, and strange glyphs that seemed to dance mockingly before my eyes. A cipher, Holmes. But how do you propose to decipher it? It looks like gibberish to me. Holmes's lips curved into a faint, almost predatory smile. Gibberish to the untrained eye, perhaps, but to the discerning mind, it is a language waiting to be translated. Observe the repetition of certain symbols. Here, the saffron. The room filled with the scratch of Holmes's pen and the occasional clink of my teacup as I tried to keep pace with his relentless focus. At last he leaned back, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Eureka, Watson! The cipher yields its secrets. Listen to this. The saffron veil guards the medallion in a warehouse at I.J. Dock, Sector 7. D.V. promises delivery but warns of betrayal. Trust only the map." I stared at him, my mind racing to catch up. "So the warehouse we found on the map? It's where the medallion is hidden? And D.V., de zilveren Vos, was working with Lord Reginald, but suspected treachery?" Holmes nodded, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. "Precisely. The journal confirms that Lord Reginald was closing in on the medallion, a relic of immense value to this saffron veil. A secret society, I suspect, with tendrils reaching into Amsterdam's illicit trade. But the warning of betrayal is telling. Someone within Lord Reginald's circle, or perhaps the society itself, sought to thwart him." I glanced at the map, its red-inked mark indicating the warehouse near the I.J. Dock. Then we must go back to Amsterdam to the warehouse. But what of the blood-stained glove? If Lord Reginald was betrayed, could he still be alive? Holmes's expression darkened, his eyes narrowing as he considered the question. "The glove is a puzzle within a puzzle, Watson. Its blood suggests violence, yet the absence of a body argues against murder. It may be a deliberate misdirection, meant to convince us or someone else that Lord Reginald is dead. We must keep an open mind." He rose, pacing the room with that restless energy that always accompanied a breakthrough. "The Saffron Veil is no mere guild of merchants. Its name suggests a deeper purpose, perhaps ritualistic, perhaps criminal. The medallion is likely a key, not just to wealth but to power. And de zilveren Vos, this shadowy figure, is either its guardian or its thief. I felt a shiver despite the warmth of the fire. But who is de Silver in Voss, Holmes? A smuggler? A member of the Veil? Or continued his analysis, cross-referencing the journal's entries with the map. He noted a faint watermark on the map's corner, a stylized saffron flower, barely visible without his magnifying glass. "Another clue, Watson," he said, holding the map to the light. "This is no ordinary paper. It was crafted for the Veil, perhaps as a mark of authenticity." Lord Reginald was deeper in their web than he realized. By evening, a response arrived from one of Holmes's contacts, a Dutch forger known only as Janus. The message, delivered by a scruffy urchin who vanished into the fog, confirmed that the warehouse in Sector 7 was a known hub for illicit trade, guarded by men loyal to a mysterious figure, possibly de Silver in Voss. "The plot thickens," Holmes murmured, folding the note. "We must return to Amsterdam, but not blindly. The warehouse is a trap or a treasure, and we must be prepared for either." I felt a surge of apprehension, tempered by the thrill of the chase. "When do we leave, Holmes? Tomorrow?" He shook his head, his eyes glinting with calculation. "Tonight, Watson. The night train to Dover, then the steamer to Amsterdam. Time is our enemy in this affair. If Lord Reginald is alive, he is in peril. If dead, his killers are still at large." We packed swiftly, Holmes tucking the journal and map into a concealed pocket of his coat. As we stepped into the foggy street, the gas lamps casting their feeble glow, I couldn't shake the sense that we were walking into a web far more intricate than we yet understood. The saffron veil, the medallion, the blood-stained glove, all pointed to a conspiracy that spanned cities and secrets, with de Silver in Voss at its heart. At the station, as we boarded the train, Holmes leaned close, his voice a low murmur. "Watson, this case is a game of shadows. The cipher has given us a glimpse, but the true picture remains hidden. Trust no one, not even our client, Sir Edmund. His distress may be genuine, but his motives are not yet clear. Test your detective skills. What do you think the saffron veil is hiding? Share your theories." Chapter 5. A Trail of Ciphers. The fog had lifted slightly by the time Sherlock Holmes and I, Dr. John H. Watson, returned to London. The damp chill of Amsterdam's canals replaced by the familiar smoky haze of Baker Street. It was the 4th day of our investigation into the disappearance of Lord Reginald Vane, and the cryptic journal and map we had uncovered in his Amsterdam lodgings weighed heavily on my mind. The journey back across the North Sea had been swift, driven by Holmes's insistence that the key to unraveling the mystery lay in decoding the secrets hidden within Lord Reginald's writings. As our hansom cab rattled through London's bustling streets, the gas lamps flickering to life against the encroaching dusk, I could sense Holmes's mind working at its feverish pace, piecing together the threads of a case that grew more intricate with each revelation. Back in the cozy, cluttered sanctuary of 221B Baker Street, the fire crackled warmly, casting a golden glow over the familiar chaos of books, chemical vials, and Holmes's ever-present tobacco ash. I settled into my armchair, my leg aching faintly from the damp, while Holmes spread Lord Reginald's journal and map across the table, his lean frame taut with concentration. "Watson," he said, his voice sharp with purpose, "the journal is no mere diary. It is a cipher, a deliberate veil over Lord Reginald's true intentions. The saffron veil, the medallion, de Silver and Voss. These are not random elements but parts of a carefully constructed puzzle. We must crack it. I leaned forward, peering at the journal's pages, their neat handwriting interspersed with cryptic symbols, combinations of letters, numbers, and strange glyphs that seemed to dance mockingly before my eyes. A cipher, Holmes. But how do you propose to decipher it? It looks like gibberish to me. Holmes's lips curved into a faint, almost predatory smile. Gibberish to the untrained eye, perhaps, but to the discerning mind, it is a language waiting to be translated. Began mapping the journal's symbols to corresponding letters. Hours passed, the fire burning low, the room filled with the scratch of Holmes's pen, and the occasional clink of my teacup as I tried to keep pace with his relentless focus. At last he leaned back, his eyes gleaming with triumph. Eureka, Watson! The cipher yields its secrets. Listen to this. The saffron veil guards the medallion in a warehouse at IJ Dock, Sector 7. DV promises delivery but warns of betrayal. Trust only the map. I stared at him, my mind racing to catch up. So, the warehouse we found on the map, it's where the medallion is hidden? And DV, de Silver and Voss, was working with Lord Reginald but suspected treachery? Holmes nodded, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. Precisely. The journal confirms that Lord Reginald was closing in on the medallion, a relic of immense value to this saffron veil. A secret society, I suspect, with tendrils reaching into Amsterdam's illicit trade. But the warning of betrayal is telling. Someone within Lord Reginald's circle, or perhaps the society itself, sought to thwart him. I glanced at the map, its red inked mark indicating the warehouse near the IJ dock. Then we must go back to Amsterdam, to the warehouse. But what of the blood-stained glove? If Lord Reginald was betrayed, could he still be alive? Holmes's expression darkened, his eyes narrowing as he considered the question. The glove is a puzzle within a puzzle, Watson. Its blood suggests violence, yet the absence of a body argues against murder. It may be a deliberate misdirection, meant to convince us, or someone else, that Lord Reginald is dead. We must keep an open mind. He rose, pacing the room with that restless energy that always accompanied a breakthrough. The Saffron Veil is no mere guild of merchants. Its name suggests a deeper purpose, perhaps ritualistic, perhaps criminal. The medallion is likely a key, not just to wealth but to power. And de Silver and Voss, this underworld, seeking any whisper of the Saffron Veil or the warehouse. As we waited for replies, Holmes continued his analysis, cross-referencing the journal's entries with the map. He noted a faint watermark on the map's corner, a stylized saffron flower, barely visible without his magnifying glass. Another clue, Watson, he said, holding the map to the light. This is no ordinary paper. It was crafted for the veil, perhaps as a mark of authenticity. Lord Reginald was deeper in their web than he realized. By evening, a response arrived from one of Holmes's contacts, a Dutch forger known only as Janus. The message, delivered by a scruffy urchin who vanished into the fog, confirmed that the warehouse in Sector 7 was a known hub for illicit trade, guarded by men loyal to a mysterious figure, possibly de Silver and Voss. The plot thickens, Holmes murmured, folding the note. We must return to Amsterdam, but not blindly. The warehouse is a trap or a treasure, and we must be prepared for either. I felt a surge of apprehension. tempered by the thrill of the chase. "When do we leave, Holmes? Tomorrow?" He shook his head, his eyes glinting with calculation. "Tonight, Watson. The night train to Dover, then the steamer to Amsterdam. Time is our enemy in this affair. If Lord Reginald is alive, he is in peril. If dead, his killers are still at large." We packed swiftly, Holmes tucking the journal and map into a concealed pocket of his coat. As we stepped into the foggy street, the gas lamps casting their feeble glow, I couldn't shake the sense that we were walking into a web far more intricate than we yet understood. The saffron veil, the medallion, the blood-stained glove, all pointed to a conspiracy that spanned cities and secrets, with de Silver and Voss at its heart. At the station, as we boarded the train, Holmes leaned close, his voice a low murmur. "Watson, this case is a game of shadows. The cipher has given us a glimpse, but the true picture, its tracks. Engagement prompt. Can you crack a cipher? Try solving a simple one in the comments and test your detective skills. What do you think the saffron veil is hiding? Share your theories." Chapter 6. The Smuggler's Den. The night was black as pitch over Amsterdam's docklands. The fog a dense shroud that muffled sound and sight, turning the world into a labyrinth of shadows. It was our 5th day pursuing the mystery of Lord Reginald Vane's disappearance, and I, Dr. John H. Watson, followed Sherlock Holmes through the maze of crates and barrels that lined the IJ dock. The air was thick with the scent of tar, salt water, and the faint, acrid tang of coal smoke carried from the distant chimneys of the city. The warehouse marked on Lord Reginald's map loomed ahead, its weathered facade a silent sentinel in the gloom, its windows dark and shuttered against prying eyes. The canal nearby lapped gently, its waters reflecting the faint glow of a single gas lamp, casting eerie ripples across the scene. Holmes, his greatcoat blending into the fog, moved with the stealth of a cat, his eyes scanning the surroundings with predatory focus. "Watson," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the creak of moored ships. "This warehouse is no mere storage house. It is a fortress, guarding secrets the saffron veil would kill to protect. We must be cautious. Every shadow could conceal a foe." I gripped my revolver, its weight a small comfort in the oppressive darkness. The journal's deciphered message, pointing to this warehouse in Sector 7, had brought us here, driven by Holmes's unerring instinct that the silver medallion, the heart of this mystery, lay within. The cryptic warning, "Trust no one," echoed in my mind, mingling with the image of the blood-stained glove and the scuff marks on the Prinsengracht Bridge. Was Lord Reginald alive, hidden somewhere in this den of intrigue, or had he met a darker fate? We approached the warehouse's side entrance. We navigated the maze of crates, Holmes pausing occasionally to examine markings or test the weight of a box. His keen senses picked up details I missed: a faint scratch on a crate's lid, a trace of wax that suggested a seal recently broken. At last we reached a cleared space near the back of the warehouse, where a trapdoor was set into the floor, its edges nearly invisible in the dim light. Holmes knelt, his fingers tracing the outline. "Here, Watson, this is no ordinary storage. The trapdoor is reinforced and the hinges are oiled, recently used." Before we could proceed, A low murmur of voices reached us, carried from the far side of the warehouse. Holmes extinguished his lantern, and we crouched behind a stack of crates, our breaths shallow in the tense silence. Two figures emerged from the shadows, their silhouettes illuminated by a flickering lantern. One spoke in a clipped Dutch accent, the other in the polished tones of an Englishman. Their words were hushed but distinct. "The Baron's folly has delayed the shipment," the Dutchman said, his voice tinged with frustration. "De Silver and Voss is not pleased. We were to have the medallion by now." The Englishman's reply was sharp. "The Baron was a fool to meddle with the veil. If he's dead, it's his own doing. But the medallion must be secured or we'll all pay the price." Holmes's hand tightened on my arm, his eyes glinting in the darkness. "Listen, Watson," he whispered. "They speak of Lord Reginald and the medallion. This is no coincidence." The men moved closer, their lantern casting long shadows that danced across the crates. I caught a glimpse of the Dutchman's face, hard, weathered, with a scar across his cheek. The Englishman was slighter, his features obscured by a scarf, but his voice carried a cultured edge that suggested wealth or position. They paused near the trapdoor, the Dutchman producing a key. "It's here," he said, "but we must be quick. The veil's eyes are everywhere." Holmes went silent. "We must go, Watson, now." We retraced our steps, climbing the stairs as quietly as possible. But the trapdoor slammed shut above us, plunging the chamber into darkness. Footsteps echoed, and the Dutchman's voice growled, "Who's there? Show yourself." Holmes, unfazed, lit his lantern and scanned the chamber for another exit. A narrow grate in the wall, barely wide enough for a man, caught his eye. "This way," he said, prying it open with his pick. We squeezed through, emerging into a dank tunnel that smelled of the canal above. The sound of pursuit followed, but the fog and darkness cloaked our escape as we emerged onto the dockside, the warehouse now a shadowy bulk behind us. Holmes held up the medallion, its surface catching the faint glow of a distant lamp. "We have the prize, Watson, but the game is far from over. The saffron veil will not let this go lightly." We made our way to the Golden Tulip, our inn, where Holmes examined the medallion under the light of a candle. Its runes were intricate, suggesting an ancient origin, and a small inscription on the reverse read, "Lux in tenebris," light in darkness. A motto, Holmes mused. Perhaps the veil's creed. This medallion is more than a relic. It is a symbol of authority, perhaps a key to their inner circle. I sat across from him, my heart still pounding from our narrow escape. But what of Lord Reginald? If the medallion was in the warehouse, does that mean he never reached it? Or was he taken after securing it? Holmes's eyes narrowed, his fingers tracing the medallion's edges. The men spoke of the Baron's folly. They believe him dead, or at least out of the way. But the absence of a body, the deliberate placement of the glove, these suggest a deeper game. Lord Reginald may yet live, hidden or coerced, or he may have staged his own disappearance to outwit his enemies. The thought was dizzying, and I struggled to keep pace with Holmes's reasoning. And the Englishman in the warehouse? Dripping water, muffled voices of the conspirators, the faint clatter of the trapdoor, the splash of canal water in the tunnel. Engagement prompt. What's in the hidden chamber? Treasure, danger, or another clue? Who do you think the Englishman is? Share your thoughts in the comments. Chapter 7. Red Herrings Unraveled. The fog that clung to London streets was as thick as ever, a spectral curtain that muffled the clatter of hooves and the cries of street vendors, lending an air of secrecy to our pursuit. It was the 6th day of our investigation into the disappearance of Lord Reginald Vane, and I, Dr. John H. Watson, followed Sherlock Holmes through the labyrinthine alleys near the Thames, our breath visible in the chill evening air. The silver medallion, now safely tucked in Holmes's coat, had been a hard-won prize from the Amsterdam warehouse, but its acquisition had only deepened the mystery. The voices we had overheard, Dutch and English, plotting in the shadows, hinted at a conspiracy far larger than a single man's vanishing, and the cryptic phrase, "the Baron's folly," echoed in my mind, a puzzle yet to be solved. Holmes, his lean figure cutting through the fog like a blade, was silent, his eyes scanning the darkened corners of the alley. The medallion, with its saffron flower and inscription, "Lux in tenebris," had confirmed the existence of the Saffron Veil, a secret society tied to Amsterdam's illicit trade. But the Englishman's voice from the warehouse, cultured, Oxbridge-educated, had struck a chord of familiarity, and Holmes was determined to unmask him. "Watson," he said at last, his voice low and urgent, "the Englishman is our key. His presence in Amsterdam, his knowledge of the medallion, suggests he is no mere accomplice but a player of significance. We must find him before the Veil realizes we have their prize." Our destination was a nondescript boarding house in Wapping, a haunt of dock workers and petty criminals, where Holmes's informant, Janice, had traced a man matching the Englishman's description. "Mr. Winton," he said, his tone deceptively mild, "we have matters to discuss. Concerning a warehouse in Amsterdam, a medallion, and a certain Lord Reginald Vane." Winton's face paled, his eyes darting to the door as if calculating his chances of escape. "I don't know what you're talking about, Holmes," he said, his voice steady but strained. "I'm a businessman, nothing more." Holmes's smile was cold, his eyes piercing. "A businessman who consorts with De Silver and Voss and the Saffron Veil. Come, Winton, your ledger tells a different story." He gestured to the open book, its pages filled with coded entries, shipments, payments, and cryptic references to a silver key. Winton's shoulders slumped and he sank back into his chair. "You don't understand what you're meddling in, Holmes. The Veil. They're not just smugglers. They're everywhere, in Amsterdam, London, even the courts. I deal with their goods, that's all. I don't ask questions." "And Lord Reginald," Holmes pressed, leaning forward, his voice like steel. "What was his folly? Was he killed for the medallion, or is he still alive?" Winton's eyes flickered with fear. "I don't know if he's alive or dead. I only heard he crossed the Veil, asking about their relic. They don't take kindly to outsiders sniffing around. De Silver and Voss. He handles their dirty work. If Vane's gone, it's the Fox's doing." Holmes's gaze never wavered. "And the Englishman in the warehouse, that was you, was it not? Plotting with a Dutch accomplice, speaking of the Baron's folly." Winton's hands trembled, but he shook his head. "Not me, Holmes, I swear it. I was in London that night. You've got the wrong man." Holmes stepped closer, pinning Winton with a stare that seemed to strip away his defenses. Then who, Winton? Give me a name, or I shall ensure the Yard takes a keen interest in your ledger." Winton hesitated, then muttered, "I don't know his name. A toff, highborn. Speaks like he owns half of Mayfair." Holmes spread the medallion and journal on the table, his fingers tracing the saffron flower etched into the silver. "The medallion is the key, Watson, but Winton's words suggest a broader conspiracy. The saffron veil is not merely a smuggling ring. It is a network with agents in both cities. The Englishman in the warehouse, the toff Winton described, is likely a linchpin." I frowned, trying to piece it together. But why the glove? Why the blood? If Lord Reginald is alive, why stage his death? Holmes leaned back, his eyes half closed in thought. "The glove is a red herring, Watson, meant to distract or deceive. It could be Lord Reginald's own doing, to throw off his pursuers. Or it could be the veil's work, to convince the world he is dead. The blood, however, is real, fresh, as I observed. Someone was injured, but whether it was Lord Reginald or another, we cannot yet say." He rose, pacing the room, his silhouette sharp against the firelight. Winton was a distraction, a false lead planted to slow us. The true trail lies with the Englishman and de Silver and Voss. We must return to Amsterdam, to the warehouse, and confront the veil directly. I felt a surge of apprehension. The warehouse? After our narrow escape? Holmes, it's a fortress, and the veil knows we've taken the medallion. Holmes's eyes gleamed with determination. "Precisely, Watson. They will be watching, waiting for us to make our next move. And we shall oblige them, but on our terms." We prepared for our return to Amsterdam, Holmes sending another coded message to Janus, requesting surveillance on the warehouse. As we packed, I couldn't shake the sense that we were being watched, the fog outside our window seeming to conceal unseen eyes. The medallion, now hidden in a locked box, felt like a talisman of danger, its weight a reminder of the stakes. At the station, as we boarded the night train, Holmes leaned close, his voice a whisper. "Watson, we are playing a dangerous game. The veil's reach is long, and their stairs, the flicker of a candle, the distant bark of a dog in the fog." Engagement prompt. Is Clarence Winton telling the truth, or is he hiding something? Who do you think the mysterious Englishman is? Share your suspicions in the comments. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. The fog over Amsterdam was as dense as ever, curling around the gabled houses and canals like a living thing, its tendrils weaving through the night as if to guard the city's secrets. It was the 7th day of our investigation into the disappearance of Lord Reginald Vane, and I, Dr. John H. Watson, followed Sherlock Holmes through the labyrinthine streets toward a grand mansion on the Herengracht, where our informant, Janus, had reported a clandestine meeting of the Saffron Veil. The silver medallion, secured in Holmes's coat after our perilous escape from the warehouse, seemed to pulse with a weight beyond its size, a talisman of the conspiracy we sought to unravel. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and canal water, and the distant toll of a church bell added a mournful note to the suspense that hung over us. Holmes, his lean figure cloaked in shadow, moved with the silent precision of a predator, his eyes scanning the darkened windows of the mansion ahead. "Watson," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the soft lapping of the canal. "The Saffron Veil gathers tonight, and with them, perhaps, the truth about Lord Reginald. The medallion has drawn their attention, and we must strike while they are exposed." I gripped my revolver, its cold steel a reassuring weight in my hand. The warehouse had confirmed the medallion's significance, but Clarence Winton's denials in London had only deepened the mystery. The Englishman's voice we had overheard, cultured, commanding, hinted at a figure of influence within the veil, and Holmes was convinced that this meeting would reveal him. The cryptic journal, the blood-stained glove, the scuff marks on the Prinsengracht bridge, all pointed to a plot that converged here, in this opulent house where secrets were guarded by wealth and power. We approached the man. The circle stood a tall figure, his mask more ornate, his cloak edged with silver. His voice, when he spoke, was unmistakable, the cultured English accent we had heard in the warehouse. "The medallion is lost," he said, his tone sharp with anger. "The Baron's folly has cost us dearly, but we will reclaim it. De Silver and Voss has failed us, and he will answer for it." Holmes's hand tightened on my arm, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "There, Watson," he whispered, "the Englishman. And he speaks of Lord Reginald as if he were a traitor to their cause. This changes everything." I strained to see more, my heart pounding. Could the masked figure be Lord Reginald himself, orchestrating his own disappearance to seize control of the veil? Or was he a victim, betrayed by his own allies? The journal's warning, "Trust no one," echoed in my mind, and I felt the weight of the medallion in Holmes's possession, a prize that had already cost us dearly. The meeting continued, the figures debating in hushed tones. One, a woman with a Dutch accent, spoke of the shipment and the need to secure the veil's influence in London. Another mentioned a new guardian for the medallion, suggesting a shift in their plans. Holmes listened intently, his mind cataloging every word, but before we could learn more, a sudden movement caught my eye. A cloaked figure, smaller and quicker than the others, slipping toward a side door. Holmes noticed it too. "Quickly, Watson," he hissed, pulling me toward the corridor. We descended a narrow staircase, following the figure's path, our footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The chase led us to a smaller chamber, its walls lined with tapestries depicting saffron flowers and cryptic runes. The figure stood before a locked cabinet, fumbling with a key, unaware of our presence. Holmes stepped forward, his voice cutting through the silence. "Enough games. Show yourself." The figure froze, then turned, pulling back the mask to reveal a young woman, her face pale but defiant. "You're Holmes," she said, her Dutch accent used to hide their true leader. "The Englishman. He's their broker, a man of power in London. I don't know his name, but he's here, leading the veil." Before Holmes could press further, a commotion erupted in the hall. Shouts, the crash of glass, and the unmistakable sound of a chandelier hitting the floor. "They've found us," Holmes said, his voice calm but urgent. He grabbed Anna's arm. "Come with us or you'll answer to them." She nodded and we fled through a side passage, emerging into a fog-shrouded courtyard. The medallion still in Holmes's coat was now a dangerous liability, and I could hear footsteps pursuing us through the mist. We ducked into an alley, the canal's edge mere feet away, its waters lapping ominously. Anna, breathless, whispered, "The veil will kill to reclaim the medallion. It's their key to power, control over the trade routes, the guilds, even governments." Holmes's eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Then we shall use it to draw them out. But first we must secure you, Miss de Vries. You know too much to be left unprotected." We made our way to the Golden Tulip, our inn, where Holmes concealed Anna in a private room, instructing the innkeeper to admit no one. As we sat by the fire, the medallion on the table between us, Holmes's mind was clearly racing. "Anna's story confirms much, Watson," he said, his fingers tracing the medallion's runes. "Lord Reginald was no mere diplomat. He was a crusader, seeking to dismantle the veil. The glove, the blood, the bridge, all were staged to make us believe he was dead. But if he lives, he is in hiding, and the Englishman is the key to finding him." I frowned, struggling to keep pace. "But why the medallion? What power does it hold?" Holmes leaned back, his eyes half closed. "It is a symbol, Watson, but also a key. Perhaps literally, to a vault or a secret. The veil's influence spans continents, and the medallion is their seal of authority. Whoever holds it holds their trust, or their enmity." The night grew late, the fog pressing against the veil. Or is he a victim of their betrayal? What role does Anna de Vries play? Share your theories in the comments. Chapter 9. The Final Clue. The first light of dawn crept over Amsterdam, its pale glow struggling to pierce the thinning fog that clung to the canals like a reluctant specter. It was the 8th day of our investigation into the disappearance of Lord Reginald Vane, and I, Dr. John H. Watson, stood once more on the Prinsengracht Bridge, the scene of the Baron's mysterious vanishing. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of damp stone and the distant aroma of freshly baked bread from a nearby bakery. The canal below reflected the soft hues of the rising sun, its waters calm but unyielding in their silence. Sherlock Holmes, his greatcoat dusted with dew, stood at the bridge's edge, his sharp eyes scanning the stonework with an intensity that suggested he was close to unraveling the tangled web of the saffron veil. The confrontation in the Herengracht mansion had left us with more questions than answers. Anna de Vries's revelation, that Lord Reginald had been betrayed by the veil, yet might still be alive, had shifted the case's focus, and the silver medallion, now hidden in a locked box in our room at the Golden Tulip, was both our greatest asset and our greatest danger. The Englishman's voice, the cryptic journal, the blood-stained glove, all pointed to a conspiracy that reached from Amsterdam's docks to London's elite. Holmes, ever driven by the pursuit of truth, had insisted we return to the bridge at dawn, convinced that the shifting light might reveal a clue overlooked in the fog of that fateful night. "Watson," Holmes said, his voice low but vibrant with purpose, "the bridge is the fulcrum of this mystery. The scuff marks, the cigar ash, the glove, all were staged to mislead, but the truth lies in what was not meant to be seen. Dawn's light may yet illuminate the unseen." He knelt, his magnifying glass glinting as he examined the underside of the bridge's railing, where the stone dipped close to the canal's edge. "The ambush on the bridge," and left this message for someone he trusted. Perhaps Anna de Vries. Sir Edmund, it seems, is no grieving brother, but a traitor to his own kin. The revelation sent a chill through me, despite the warming light. But why? What could drive Sir Edmund to betray Lord Reginald? The medallion? Holmes rose, brushing dust from his coat. "The medallion is a symbol of power within the veil, Watson. But power breeds greed. Sir Edmund may have sought to seize it for himself, or to secure his own position within the society. The glove, the blood, they were his tools to convince the world of his brother's death, while he pursued the true prize. We left the bridge, the inscription burned into my memory, and made our way to a nearby cafe to plan our next move. The cafe was quiet, its patrons huddled over steaming cups of coffee, and Holmes spread Lord Reginald's map on the table, his fingers tracing the marked warehouse. The safe house mentioned in the inscription, he mused. It must be in Amsterdam, hidden from the Veil's eyes. Lord Reginald is clever. He would choose a place obscure yet accessible. I frowned, trying to follow his reasoning. But how do we find it? The map only shows the warehouse, and we've already been there. Holmes's lips curved into a faint smile. The map is a guide, Watson, but not to the warehouse alone. Look here. He pointed to a faint line, almost invisible, running from the warehouse to a small square near the Jordan district. A secondary mark, likely a backup plan. The safe house is there, in a place the Veil would not suspect. We set out for the Jordan, a maze of narrow streets and quaint houses, the fog now a mere haze as the sun climbed higher. The square was unremarkable, lined with modest homes and a small church, its bell tolling softly. Holmes, guided by an instinct I could only marvel at, led us to a narrow house with a faded blue door, its windows shuttered but showing signs of recent use, fresh footprints in the damp earth outside. Holmes knocked softly, using a coded pattern he sought to expose them, to bring their crimes to the British government. But Edmund, he's one of them. He learned of my plan and arranged the ambush on the bridge. I fought off my attackers, but I knew I had to disappear. I stared, appalled. Your own brother? Why? Power, Lord Reginald said bitterly. Edmund craves it. He saw the Veil as his path to influence, and my interference threatened that. The glove, the blood, it was his doing, to make the world think me dead while he hunted the medallion. Holmes nodded, his expression grim. And de Zilver and Voss, who is he? Lord Reginald shook his head. A shadow. A name used by the Veil's leader. I never learned his identity. But the Englishman at the mansion, he's their broker, a man of high standing in London. I heard his voice once, before I fled. We left Lord Reginald with a promise to protect him, returning to the Golden Tulip to regroup. Holmes was silent, his mind clearly racing, but I ventured a question. The Englishman, Holmes. Could he be Sir Edmund himself? Holmes paused, his eyes narrowing. Possible, Watson, but unlikely. Sir Edmund's distress seemed genuine, though his motives are suspect. The Englishman is someone else, a figure of greater influence, perhaps even within the Veil's inner circle. We must confront Sir Edmund and force the truth. As we prepared to return to London, the medallion secure and Lord Reginald's testimony in hand, I felt the weight of the case pressing down. The final clue had brought us closer to the truth, but the Veil's reach was long, and Sir Edmund's betrayal added a new layer of danger. The fog, though thinning, seemed to mirror the mystery, clearing in parts yet still obscuring the full picture. Key visual moment, Holmes tracing the carved inscription on the underside of the Prinsengracht Bridge, the first rays of sunlight illuminating his face as the canal reflects the dawn. Thumbnail suggestion. Holmes at dawn, the canal shimmering below, the saffron a symbol of the Saffron Veil's power and the key to the mystery we had pursued across 2 cities. The fog outside pressed against the windows, a reminder of the elusive truth we had chased, now so close to resolution. Holmes paced before the fire, his lean frame taut with the restless energy that always accompanied the climax of a case. Across from me sat Sir Edmund Vane, his face pale and drawn, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Beside him, in a chair hastily brought from the dining room, was Lord Reginald Vane, alive but haggard, his eyes haunted by the ordeal of his betrayal and flight. The reunion of the brothers had been tense, orchestrated by Holmes with the precision of a chess master moving his final pieces. The air was thick with anticipation, the weight of the truth hanging over us like a storm about to break. "Gentlemen," Holmes began, his voice calm but commanding, "we have reached the end of this intricate affair, and it is time to lay bare the facts. Lord Reginald, you sought to expose the Saffron Veil, a secret society controlling Amsterdam's illicit trade. The silver medallion, their seal of authority, was your target, a symbol of power over a network that spans continents. But your ambition drew the attention of those who would stop at nothing to protect their secrets." Lord Reginald nodded, his voice low. "I wanted to bring them to justice, Mr. Holmes. Their influence corrupts governments, manipulates trade. I thought the medallion would be their undoing." Holmes's eyes flicked to Sir Edmund, whose gaze was fixed on the floor. "And you, Sir Edmund, played a different role. You came to us in distress, presenting a blood-stained glove and a tale of your brother's disappearance on the Prinsengracht Bridge. But the truth, as I have deduced, is far darker." Sir Edmund's head snapped up, his eyes wide with alarm. "Mr. Holmes, I swear I only sought to find my brother." Holmes raised a hand, silencing him. "Let us dispense with pretense. The glove was a fabrication. Its blood a deliberate plant to suggest murder. The sky beyond our family's dreams. You were tearing it all down, exposing secrets that would ruin us both. I thought if you were gone, I could take your place." Holmes's gaze was unrelenting. "And so you arranged the attack, using the Veil's resources. The blood on the glove was not your brother's, but that of a hired thug injured in the scuffle. You sent the glove to yourself. A theatrical touch to convince the world of Lord Reginald's death, while you hunted the medallion." I leaned forward, piecing it together. "But the Englishman in the warehouse, Holmes, the one with the cultured voice, was that Sir Edmund?" Holmes shook his head. "No, Watson. That was another player, one whose identity remains elusive but whose role is clear. He is the Veil's broker in London, a man of influence who coordinates their operations. Sir Edmund was his pawn, manipulated by promises of power. The Englishman, whom we heard at the mansion, is likely a figure of high standing, perhaps in government or society. His identity is a thread I shall pursue, but for now our focus is here." Sir Edmund slumped, his voice barely a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to go so far. The Veil, they threatened me, said they'd destroy our family if I didn't comply. I only wanted to protect our name." Lord Reginald's eyes softened, though his jaw remained tight. "You protected nothing, Edmund. You betrayed me. And for what? A trinket and empty promises." Holmes stepped forward, producing the medallion from the iron box. Its saffron flower gleamed, its runes catching the firelight. "This trinket, as you call it, is the Veil's key to power. a symbol that grants authority over their network. Lord Reginald sought to expose them, but you, Sir Edmund, sought to join them. Your betrayal led us on a chase across 2 cities, but it also led us to the truth. He turned to me, his expression softening slightly. Watson softened, a rare moment of warmth. You are safe now, Lord Reginald, and the veil's secrets are exposed. The medallion will be turned over to the authorities, ensuring their network is dismantled. Sir Edmund's voice broke, a sob escaping him. What will become of me, Mr. Holmes? I am ruined. Holmes's expression was stern but not unkind. You will face justice, Sir Edmund, but your confession may mitigate your fate. The veil's influence is vast, but not unbreakable. Your cooperation will aid in their downfall. As Sir Edmund was led away by Inspector Lestrade, summoned by Holmes to take him into custody, Lord Reginald rose, clasping Holmes's hand. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson. You've saved more than my life. You've restored my faith in justice. Holmes nodded, returning to his armchair as the door closed behind the brothers. A tragic case, Watson, he said, lighting his pipe. Greed blinded Sir Edmund, turning brother against brother. Trust, as I have often said, must be earned, not assumed. The saffron veil preyed on that weakness, but their time is ending. I sat back, the weight of the case lifting at last. And the Englishman, Holmes? Will you pursue him? Holmes's eyes glinted, a spark of the hunt still burning. In time, Watson. He is a shadow, but no shadow can evade me forever. For now, we have struck a blow against the veil, and that is enough. The fire crackled, the fog outside thinning as the morning light crept in. The medallion, now evidence in Lestrade's hands, was no longer our burden, but its legacy lingered, a reminder of the thin line between loyalty and betrayal. Key visual moment, Holmes pointing at Sir Edmund, who slumps in defeat as Lord Reginald enters the room, his face a mix of relief and sorrow. Thumbnail suggestion, Holmes's triumphant gesture, Sir Edmund's shocked face, the medallion gleaming on the table in 221B.